Welcome in this first online course, which we offer for free so you can get acquainted with the way of European dowsing and also my way of teaching, of course. So we will talk about the essence of dowsing, and in few short parts I will present different aspects of dowsing and things to consider when we dowse. So first of all, we have to talk and understand what dowsing is. Many people rediscovered dowsing for themselves, by themselves, and as much as I really admire everyone who came to it and just brought his own idea how to dowse, we also have to know and understand that dowsing has extremely long history. The history which we know and follow right now is an Egyptian way of dowsing and Egyptian knowledge based on which many dowsing tools has been built over the years. This huge and extremely fascinating body of knowledge is called sacred geometry. So let's look at dowsing from scientific and metaphysical point of view. From scientific point of view, when you dowse and you have a problem in your mind, electrical impulse is created. This electrical impulse goes along your muscles and pushes the energy down, lower and lower your arm to the string of the pendulum. Those small droplets of energy pushed down create, sooner or later, movement of your pendulum. So that's the scientific approach, why pendulum moves when you have it in your hand. But then there is another aspect, which is metaphysical, which is and talks about our connection with the universe, with everything what is. And from this point of view, dowsing is a way of connecting with everything what exists, has existed, and will exist in the universe. So some will say we use the Akashic record. Some of you will say, well, we connect with universal knowledge. That's fine with me. Whatever vocabulary fits your belief system at that point of time, it's fine. The point is that we are connecting with the frequencies which exist in the universe by tapping into specific frequency through finding the wavelength. And we will talk about the wavelength and it's important in a second section of this course. So for now on, let's remember that we have an ability to connect with every vibration and every frequency which exists in the universe through the pendulum. Some people say that there is deviceless dowsing. Some people say that no, you have to have a tool. By definition, dowsing is an art of and science of connecting with frequencies, vibration, people, objects, and everything what nature and the universe has, by tuning in to its vibration. So basically, when you are compatible with specific vibration, you are in tune with it and you can use its knowledge or information involved in this frequency and get it to you. It is simply transmitted from the universe to you, and you can see it by the movement of the pendulum. By European standard, there is no deviceless dowsing. because, as I said, by definition, dowsing talks about the tool which is external and can show you by its movement if your statement or your question receive the answer of yes or no. That's why dowsing applies to absolutely everyone, because even people who have no gifts of seeing, hearing, or feeling things through their senses still can withdraw the energy from the universe and from ourselves and find the answer to their question through the observation of the movement of his or her pendulum. What people in North America we all call deviceless dowsing, is simply kinesiology. And there is nothing wrong with using kinesiology. Not everyone can, though, but that's a different topic. But we can use kinesiology, which really is based on the same principle, which means that our whole energetic system, not only our physical body, but whole energetic system, has different level of energy when the problem is connected with negative energy, and with positive energy. It's not bad and good. It's about what is right in reference to the problem which you have in your mind. So different level of energy for yes and for no in kinesiology will of course manifest itself, let's say, through the different movement of your or resistance of your hand or your muscles, generally speaking, to the push. The same energy, lower level of energy or higher level of energy, we observe here. Different amount and different quality of energy will move pendulum toward your yes, and different type of energy will move pendulum toward your no. So those are the similarities, but as I said, dowsing can be used by absolutely everyone, just because it is connected through senses via this tool, which is absolutely external, moves in the very much physical manners, and each of us can observe and therefore find an answer. Thank you very much. That will finish the section 1, and in a moment we will meet in next session and we will talk about the wavelength and importance of having wavelength measured. So we talked in the previous segment about dowsing, the real true meaning of dowsing. Now let's talk about wavelength. People always have a problem with holding the pendulum because I see people holding it in different distance from the body of the pendulum, and when I ask why, they have no explanation. They normally say, because it's convenient for me. One of the most important aspects of dowsing is finding your wavelength. You cannot really overestimate the value of wavelength in dowsing. So let's talk about that. What is the wavelength? Wavelength is a length of the wave. Some of us operate on shorter wavelength, some of us operate on longer wavelength. It doesn't really matter in the regular life, but it does matter in dowsing. So let's look at it. Here I have a page with wavelength. Don't worry, it won't be hard physics. It just touch of physics. So if you see those two axes, the wavelength goes in sinusoid manner along the time. So here is a length of this one wavelength. Someone else will have a wavelength like this. And it's also fine, but we need to know. When we will talk about the healing with pendulums, we will come back to the problem of wavelength, because there is a lot to say about it, and there is different aspects of wavelengths and so on and so on. But let's leave it for later. For now, we will talk in general manner about this. So when we will turn it 90 degrees, and we'll imagine that at the end of those axes, there is a pendulum attached, then you can see that you can walk the string up until the moment when you will reach your wavelength. When you will reach your wavelength, your pendulum will start to move just because it hears you. So if I will take a pendulum and I will hold it, as it shows here, as close to the body of the pendulum as possible. Don't forget that the rest of the string cannot hang like this. It has to be hidden in the palm of your hand. Why? Because when you hold your string like this, you are losing part of the energy which flows through your hand, goes down, part goes to the pendulum and part goes here. In order not to lose the energy, you simply put it very loosely in the palm of your hand, and you hold it like this. So now, when I will, what we call, walk the string with request in my mind, show me my wavelength, show me my wavelength, show me my wavelength, show me my wavelength, show me my wavelength. It starts to move at specific distance between the body of the pendulum and the string. Now we can bring this small bead, which is on every one of our pendulums, to mark your wavelength. In this moment, you found your wavelength. So you know on what frequency your body operates, even if you don't know what it means. It's still, because pendulum started to move at that point, it means that only here pendulum can hear you. What it means that pendulum hears you? It means that you inside, your higher self, your soul, your mind, whatever you want to call it, hears you and can respond to it. So my pendulum was moving like this when I asked, show me my wavelength. Actually, when I requested, show me my wavelength. And therefore, I know now that we are in tune. As I gave you an example in one of the clips on our YouTube channel, I said that very often we hear from our friends or other people saying we cannot communicate because we operate on different wavelengths. So we know it, we just don't understand what it means. But it really means that if I'm here and you are here, we cannot build a common ground because we are too far from each other. Therefore, you will not hear me and I will not hear you. Of course, I can hear your words, but I will not get the meaning because we are so far away from each other. That's why we became close friends with some people and we reject the presence of other people in our life. No other reason, but we are too far from each other. Of course, we can go into karmic problems and so on, but from energetic reactions right now, the energy says, I'm not talking to you because you are too far from me and you will not hear me anyway. So why should I waste my time? This same, as I said, is with the pendulum. So you can, on every pendulum you have, you can find your wavelength, you can move this movable bead to mark your wavelength, and then you know that the pendulum reacts to me at that distance. And that's the wavelength. Sometimes people say, well, will it change? What wavelength depends on? So the size of the pendulum matters, or the quality of material matters, type of material matters. What is it? Well, let's research it. If I will take this pendulum, which is huge and heavy, this is Mare Isis, excellent pendulum to releasing pain, however very heavy. This wooden pendulum weighs almost 2 pounds, which means, well, about 3/4 of a kilogram. If I want to find my wavelength, and I will say, show me my wavelength, 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 it starts to move. Movement does not have to be large. It has to simply hear you, which means any type of movement will do, because it starts to listening to you. You have to catch the very first spot on the string which hears you. So I move the string here, this movable bead here, and that's my one pendulum. Now, we made it, I guess, we made it here before, and then I will do maybe the third pendulum, which is this one, Atlantis pendulum. Different material, different size, different shape. So let's do this. And again, string in your hand, and let's go. Oh, what I forgot to tell you is that when you dowse, you should take all your jewelry from your hands. So your beautiful bracelets go down for the time you're dowsing, just because everything, energy flows through your hand this way, from your head to your fingers. If I have the bracelet here, it creates magnetic field going this way, because magnetic field will be created around the bracelet, and therefore I cut off the flow of energy through my hand, through my muscles, to my fingers, and down to the pendulums. So I will take this away, and I will say, show me my wavelength, show me my wavelength, show me my wavelength, show me my wavelength. If you can see, because I'm walking the string up, the pendulum gives a very hectic movement, which is not the movement I'm looking for. I'm looking for consistent movement like this. Okay? And then I will move the bead down to mark this wavelength. Now, if I will put top of the pendulum next to each other, you can see, well, I hope you will see, that it is exactly the same distance. Now, if I will put this one with that one, matching the tips of the pendulum, it's the same distance. So why it happens? Because it is, as we say, your wavelength. I'm saying, show me my wavelength. I'm not talking about the quality of the tool. I'm not looking for any other wavelength but mine. Therefore, it doesn't matter which tool I will use, which material, which shape, it will always do the same. It will show me my wavelength, which means I am an antenna which receives the impulses. Pendulum is a tool or indicator of this energy being present here and now. It is a lot easier to find your wavelength with therapeutic pendulums than basic pendulums, but that is next section of this course, and we will talk about it in a moment. For now on, I wanted you to understand what a wavelength is and how to find it. Now, will it change? Yes, it will change. Your wavelength will never change, but its three-dimensional version can change with time when you dowse for longer and when you will become more and more familiar with the process of dowsing. When you take a pendulum into your hands, your muscles are very relaxed. Your body, conscious and unconscious level, knows what you will do. Is not afraid of it. You don't have to control the process. Therefore, your muscles are more relaxed, and therefore energy flows through them faster and easier than for beginners who are very tense about what they do. And therefore, the physical expression of your wavelength will change with time, will become shorter and shorter and shorter, to the point that it will come to zero. And basically, you will take the pendulum here and it starts to move when you say, show me my wavelength. It doesn't matter really how long your wavelength is. It is important to find it and to be able to work with it, because you will be a lot more effective dowser when you will find your wavelength and hear yourself. As we said before, it can happen that by accidental holding the pendulum in accidental length or at the accidental length, you will catch the wavelength of someone else. So let's say I will hold it here, and it means that the wavelength of the person whose wavelength finishes there is this. Now, is it you? If I'm here, then here it is not me. It can catch the wavelength of someone else, and I will find the answer to this person question, not mine. And that's why when people come to us, very often, either on expos when we are displaying our products, or at the conferences when I teach, they say, well, my pendulum lies to me. Pendulum cannot lie to you. It's a piece of metal or wood. It can be more precise or less precise, but it couldn't care less about your problems. Who is lying here is you, because you are not on your wavelength. And therefore, the pendulum does not hear you. And it cannot provide the proper resolution to your problem, which you have in your mind. I hope I explained the importance of wavelength to you, and again, we will talk a lot more about different aspects of wavelengths when we will come to the course on healing with pendulum or therapeutic application of pendulums, but that's for now basic information about the wavelength, which will definitely make your dowsing a lot more accurate, and it will shorten the time of searching for the solution of your problems. Good luck with your dowsing. Hello. In this segment, we will talk about clearing the pendulum. Very often, as I mentioned in previous segment, people come and say, my pendulum lies to me. It was working fine and now it lies to me. And I ask, can I see your pendulum? And they mostly show me, of course, gemstone pendulum, which are very popular here in whole continent. And then I ask, how often do you clear it? And they ask me, what do you mean by clearing? So let's spend a few minutes on talking about clearing the pendulum. So, generally speaking, there are two types of pendulums. Pendulums which are therapeutic and pendulums which are basic. The difference between them is that therapeutic pendulum is self-clearing. What does that mean? It means that it doesn't accept any energy inside its energy field for longer. It takes the energy, analyze it, and release it. So the pendulum by itself is always clear. We can also say that the energy field of this pendulum is so dense and intense, is so filled with the energy, because the shape radiates the energy, and it feels its energy field to the top with high quality of energy. And therefore, there is no other energy which can penetrate through and stay inside. It can touch, let itself known, and then it has to go. With basic pendulum, it works differently, because basic pendulum has very weak energy field, because it's basic. The shape radiates very small amount of energy, because it does not have a strength which is given to therapeutic pendulums by the principles of sacred geometry. This pendulum has a very weak energy field. It looks roughly like a fog. So any other energy which comes close can penetrate through the field and gets to the body of the pendulum and stays there, because pendulum does not know how to release this energy. You have to do it. We as dowsers must do it. So how to clear the pendulum? It's extremely easy. You just tap it against hard surface to shake off the energy which does not belong originally to this pendulum. Traditionally, we tap pendulum once, or if it bounced back, then we tap one more time. Basically, we tap it odd number of times. So 1 or 3 or 5 and so on. Why? Well, it's also connected with the old alchemical principles which were applied to dowsing long time ago, and it kind of stayed with us. It withdrew the proof of time, and then today we can use the same principles because it was working for humans for centuries. So from now on, I would like you to remember that from time to time you clear your pendulum. How often? Well, it depends how often you work. If you work with basic pendulum, which may be advisable or not, the opinions differ, because I'm really using dowsing mostly for healing people and myself. Therefore, I use normally only therapeutic pendulums. But if you use basic pendulum, then I would suggest to start every session, which means every time you use pendulum, start with clearing, with tapping. Pendulum should be empty. It should have only its own energy, and then wait for the energy connected with your problem, with problem which you want to solve by this session of dowsing. So you tap it before to make sure that it's clear, and then you come with your problems. You analyze the problems, you find the answers to your questions, and so on and so on, and then you tap it again when you finish your session, and you put it aside. Now, next session comes, you take the pendulum, clear it, hold it by your wavelength, and dowse for your problems. What if in one session you would like to talk about 2 or 3 topics? So let's say I would like to talk first about my finances, and then about my love life, and then about my job. So I tap it before I begin my session to clear it. Then I go through my finances with several questions, what question, whatever, and then I clear it, because next topic will be so much different from what I was talking now that I don't need the energy about my finances here inside my pendulum while I'm talking about my love life. So therefore, I tap it, clear it, go through the next topic, clear it, goes through the next topic, and clearing at the end, and then put it aside. The pendulums normally are stored separately, and we offer pouches for different sizes of pendulums and so on. Some people go for pouches, some people have their own pouches. I'm fine with whichever way you will approach. The point is, though, that to prevent pendulum, especially basic pendulums, with absorbing too much of energy of other objects which you have in your purse, in your drawer, in your desk, and whenever you hold the pendulum, the only way really to prevent from the infusion of other energy to this energy field is by separating it. Traditionally, pouches for pendulums were black, because black is an absence of colors. Therefore, there is no way the packaging by itself can infuse the energy field of pendulum with anything else. But then, because there is a common demand, we have different colors of pendulums, because people like to have them in color. And of course, not everyone uses those pouches for pendulums. Sometimes they use it for coins and other precious to them things, and they want to just easily find this object in the purse or desk by identifying the color of the pouch. This way or the other, always clear your pendulum. Pendulums which are therapeutic do not require any clearing. As I said, their energy field is very thick. The energy is very dense. It doesn't accept any other energy in their energy field. Therefore, you don't need to clear them. When I talk about therapeutic pendulums, I'm talking about the pendulums which are based on sacred geometry. Not every pendulum is based on sacred geometry, but those on our website, intuitivedowsing.com, which are marked as therapeutic pendulums, and you will have white light and golden light pendulums, but all of them are therapeutic. Those pendulums will be always self-clearing. That's why in the description of pendulum you will see self-clearing or must be cleared. That can be also your guide how to approach this pendulum. The next question would be, of course, by many, should I or can I share my pendulums with others? When I run courses, I normally joke about it, and it says pendulum is like your husband. You don't share it unless you have to. So no, do not share your pendulum, not because there is a magic and you will be punished by sharing the pendulum by the universe, God, or anyone else, but because when you take pendulum in your hand and the pendulum is is set on your own wavelength, then it will react right away to your energy because it's used to your energy only. When you share the pendulum with someone else, then let's say husband and wife, then the pendulum first have to kind of feel which energy I'm dealing with. Of course, wavelength, so adjusting the wavelength from wife to the husband wavelength will help. But the pendulum first is like who I'm talking to. And then it will show, it will say, oh, it's you, okay, I'm with you now. So if you can not share your pendulum, it will be always beneficial to the speed of your dowsing, to reliability of your dowsing, and to you, because it will be really, with time, your pendulum is your best friend. The friend who you can ask for help, you can share your doubts, and if it's therapeutic pendulum, you can ask to balance your body, to bring you to your healthy state, and to simply supply you with energy when you are tired. So, if you work with basic pendulum, clear it. If you work with therapeutic pendulum, you are fine and safe. Thank you very much.